So we've got another Alien movie in the franchise that's back to basics, but should you be rushing back to the theater to see it? Let's talk about it. Hello everybody and welcome back to Us Dice Movie Reviews. My name is Paul. I hope everybody's doing well. And like I said, we're going to be reviewing Alien Romulus in today's little review. Now this is going to be basically spoiler free, but as I always say, if you want to go into this knowing absolutely nothing, then don't be watching this either. Don't look at the trailer, don't do nothing, just get your ticket and go on. Just go on. So what we're going to do to start this off with is let's pull up the IMDb page and just look at it and see what it says like as a basic description of the movie. So on the screen you see here, Alien Romulus. We got Alvarez directing it. You see the cover with the face hugger, and there it says next to it, monster horror, space, sci-fi horror, sci-fi thriller. While scavenging the deep ends of a derelict space station, a group of young space colonists come face to face with the most terrifying life form in the universe. Now, there's that description. We're going to go into a little bit deeper of one so you can get a little bit better texture of what's going on in this film, but we won't do major plot points. So let's go ahead and talk about it just a little bit more in depth. So this movie is set between part 1 and part 2. So it's like an in-between there of the original couple ones that first came out. So Rain, the main character, she has an android brother. They basically want to escape their life they're living in this desolate, endless mining colony. It's run by a very familiar bad guy corporation. You're going to see lots of these Easter eggs in this. So they basically decide to go, they're going to hop on a ship, they're going to go even deeper into space, they're going to steal these cryo beds, they're going to go to sleep for a little under a decade, 9 years, something like that, and they are going to go start a new life somewhere. And so the way they're going to do this is they're going to go to this abandoned space station they just talked about, the Renaissance. Well, as you can imagine, that is the setup. They get up there and they run into all sorts of bad stuff, face huggers, you name it. So now let's talk about a few ingredients of the film that stood out to me that I feel like will inform you better if you want to see it. And let's first start by the story, the world building of it. So this movie gives post-apocalyptic space Odyssey vibes, that kind of world with the space world. There's a desperation that the characters start off in. You understand why they're wanting to do what they want to do. You understand why they're going where they're going to go. The world itself, and this is one part of the review, I would say, it's good on the screen because it's like a space film, right? It's big, it's huge, there's loud noises, there's this and that. And they do a good job at building that world up. It is not as in-depth, let's say, as, again, the first two. I will do a lot of comparisons back to the first two, just because those were my entry level, obviously, into the franchise when I was a kid. So I've kind of come up through all of them. So while it does capture that, it's more of a skimming of the surface, almost like if you're seeing this and you know the franchise, you're going to be better informed to the world building and what's going on in that way. Now let's talk about the characters. So you're going to see a group of characters that honestly it kind of feels like formula. Almost like they're okay, you know what? We get this group of people. We have this vibe, this vibe, this vibe, this vibe. We need this dynamic between these characters and this between these. It works. We know that. Let's go with it. So you're going to almost be oh, she's supposed to be this person in this one, and she's supposed to be this one in this one. Kind of an energy going on. Now, some of the other characters do feel a little bit like walk-on bits. You can almost be like this, I'm sure this one's going to get killed first. Oh, these two are doing this. This is what will happen. Now, they do turn that upside down throughout. There's solid acting brought forth, but again, it feels a little bit more of a superficial level going across, and some of the characters are more meant to fit into a specific role as opposed to the individual person that they're bringing to the table. Now, that being said, am I going to an Aliens movie to get touchy-feely, fried green tomatoes, all up in it vibes with the characters? No. Okay. We're going to see blood and guts, basically. And aliens, you know what I'm saying? So it works. But I mean, if you're looking for that deep kind of thing, I don't think it's there. However, it's not bad. It's just not as in-depth as you would see, say, with again, part 1, part 2, that type thing. So let's talk cameos and Easter eggs. Easter eggs are little things that are nods to other films, or if you know, that type stuff. Yes, this has that. You're going to see familiar faces. You're going to hear familiar names of companies. You're going to see familiar scenery, familiar imagery. This movie feels like somebody went back and said, we are going to reel in all the stuff. We're going back to basics. We're going back to part 1, 2 vibes. However, we are going to pick what really worked and did well from the whole franchise and do it in our way, put our little spin on it. If you look at different franchises, at some point they kind of do like a redo or like a let's reset and start it. And they kind of pick things that like really worked well or whatever and put them in there. Think Halloween, think Friday the 13th, think Texas Chainsaw Massacre. This has that energy to it of, this is safe, we're going with it, we're going to turn it up a little bit, but we're back to basics. And so this has that. You know, like I said, you'll see familiar faces, you'll see familiar things in that. If you're a fan of the franchise, you're going to really appreciate this. If you're not, then you're going to be seeing like some of the, you know, the greatest hits. Like almost like this could be like the greatest hits film, okay? Okay, let's talk about the sense of dread, the sense of claustrophobia. Yes, this has this. I will say this. It takes the movie 20 to 30 minutes to get going. And you're kind of like, okay, like, you know, we got this stuff going on. You know what's going to happen. You're waiting for them to figure out, like, okay, how are we going to get them in space? What is the motivation? How do we get them here? Let's set it all up so you know this is going to take place. And then once it does, again, it's an alien movie, right? The original ones created this sense of claustrophobic dread that did not let up. This has that too. It's just not as intense. It was not for me. So if you're going to this for that, you're going to 100% get your money's worth. But it ain't going to be like part 1 or 2. But it wasn't supposed to be because we already did part 1 and 2, right? Okay. Now, let's talk about the ending. No spoiler alerts. Do not worry. I'm just going to say this. Like many of these films I've talked about recently, the ending is something that people are divided on. You know, when I like look at comment sections and stuff like that and even my own interpretation of it, I was like, oh, okay. Hold on. Didn't 100% see that coming, but I get it. You know, the ending is definitely one of those like, oh, I thought we were over. Oh, but here we go in this direction, which was nice, right? I appreciate that. The surprise. This definitely gives you that element. So, yeah, the ending, people are going to be divided on this. Really, all I'm going to say is, because I don't want to give it away, obviously, but I'd be curious to see what you think. Now, if you do drop in the comments, just make sure not to do, like, you know, make it so it doesn't spoiler alert it for people, if you don't mind. Now, are there scare jumps in this? Absolutely. Is there gore in this? Of course. Does this film have, and how do you say it, like the desolateness of the characters and the realization of the first one, especially the first one, but really both of them? Yes, but it doesn't feel as earned as it was in the first one. Like when you, for me at least, and it could be because like I was younger than whatever, but like the first one and part 2, like when you watch it, by the end of it, you feel like you went on that journey with Sigourney Weaver, right? Like you're like, oh my God, I can't believe we survived that. This doesn't, this kind of feels like, oh, okay, got it, you know, but it doesn't feel like, it just doesn't feel as earned. But again, it's not bad. It's just, you know, whatever. Here's my thing for this. So do you need to see it at the theater or do you need to see it at home? If you can go to the theater, I would say yes. This is a big space movie, so think big noises, big booms, big scares, big scenery, big everything. It's just better suited on the big screen. But if you don't want to or can't to or whatever it is, then yeah, you're going to want to see it at home and that's totally fine too, but it's going to have a little bit of a different, it's going to hit different at the theater. So overall, do you need to see this? Here's my take on it. One of my friend Derek, many of you might know him, called me today and he was like, asked me, he's like, how was it? And I explained like this. I said, you know what? If you want an alien space movie, you're going to get your money's worth. Is it forgettable? Kind of. You know, it's nothing that I'm going to be talking about. I mean, I'm here talking about it, right? But it's not that I'm going to be like, wow, that was groundbreaking. You can't really be groundbreaking at this point because its predecessors already did that. The original, if you came up during that time in that movie, that was a thing, okay? And then when part 2 came out years later and it was like, oh my God, somebody actually made a good sequel. It's like cinematic history, right? So you've already gone to the bar way up here. What this one does well is playing it safe and back to basics and almost like a fan film. Like what do we like of this? Sure, there's things people would change and whatnot. You know, and I see mixed reviews on it where some people are like, oh God, I hate it, it was so stupid. The majority of people like it. They're like, you know what? And I do too. I mean, in this day and age, for a film with a bunch of entries in the franchise, to pull off this is good, right? So definitely, again, if you're an Aliens fan, go on see it. If you're not, you're going to enjoy seeing it because it's going to have all the greatest hits in it and you're going to enjoy it. So I give it a slice of spice and a dice. But it's like a forgettable slice and spice and dice. It's not going to resonate with me, but I didn't feel ripped off. It was an entertainment. I was like, yeah, you know what? I got my money's worth. It was cool. It delivered what it was supposed to. It played it safe, and safe for this was good. And definitely has opened the door for many more to come. So that's my take on it. I want to know what you think. Again, try not to spoil alert down in the comment section, but let me know what you think if you saw it, or whatever. And that's it. I do appreciate it. Until you go around the big screen, the little screen, all this, all that. I'll see y'all soon.